So, friends, good afternoon and welcome to this usual Wednesday news update. Being recorded a little early today just because I know that things are going to get loud outside. So, here is basically a kind of a dramatic reading from the email that I have already sent out. A little again earlier than usual because of the ongoing construction work here at our house. First of all, we have our annual report, or our weekly report, rather, from the diocese that we get with the COVID numbers. And the bad news all over the diocese is that case rates have started to increase again, as have test positivity rates. Now, we are still safe enough um, that we can continue to use yellow phase worship, but the test rate in Harford County positivity rate has gone from 1.1 to 1.3 in the last week, last 2 weeks, and then the actual case rate from 0.07 to 0.11. Please remember that we're trying to keep both of those numbers under one if possible, or as close to it. So clearly we are moving in the wrong direction here. This is true for the entire diocese. There were 3 jurisdictions 2 weeks ago that were allowed to go to green phase worship, and they must now backtrack and reinstate some of the restrictions. That's going to be really hard to do. As I have said many times, this whole business about restarting is way harder than the business of shutting us down in the first place over a year ago. So please be patient with us. Of particular concern is that only 53% of eligible Harford County residents are fully vaccinated. And that's according to the same academic sources. I think there are 3 universities, Johns Hopkins, University of Oregon, or Washington rather, and then also we're getting some data from Boston University, or the Boston Harvard coalition of hospitals up where my daughter lives. So this is concerning because, number one, that means there's a whole lot of possibility of the Delta variation spreading, which is spreading almost exclusively among non-vaccinated persons. And it's way nastier than the original version of this. You may have seen news reports of the increasing hospitalization and death rate in places like southern Missouri and Arkansas, other places where the vaccination rates are even lower than here in Harford County. I know that our county executive was hoping to reach about 60%, but we're not even there yet. Please remember that what the vaccinations do for us is do not prevent us from catching the virus. It prevents the virus from doing great harm to us. So it is still possible for us to be fully vaccinated and be transmitters. And if 4 out of 10 people that we run into are not vaccinated, and we may be doing some harm to them until they become vaccinated. And again, it is not. It was never intended to prevent the disease. It is intended to keep us from being very badly sickened by it. Still, the best practice here and the best way to love your neighbor as yourself is to make sure that you're vaccinated, and then to make sure that you sort of lovingly and encouragingly support other people so that they can decide to be vaccinated as well. So what this means for worship at Emmanuel Church kind of boils down to this. We started yellow face worship just a couple of weeks ago, and we don't have to change anything. We're not having to backtrack from any of the decisions we made for this period of time. We anticipated, as our plan was laid out late this spring and earlier this summer, we anticipated a slow rollout for Emmanuel Church, and this turns out to have been a good decision. We will continue to have people available, or people may come to church without reservations on Sunday morning at 10. You still must wear a mask. This turns out not only to be safer for everybody, but it also allows us to sing as a congregation, which was a value that we established through the survey that many of you filled out. You may sit as close as you want to co-domiciled individuals, people you live with. We have reduced the amount of social distance seating between non-co-domiciled people you don't live with, to 3 feet. And we hope that will make it both a lot more fun and more comfortable. We're still restricting things like physical contact outside of your own family for the peace. We're still giving communion only in the form of the wafer. It'll be a while, but we're working on a policy for what happens, when we go to green phase. I have some plans about that, some of which I have shared with you at various points in the past, and we'll sort of think about that out loud over the next 5 Sundays, because over the next 5 Sundays, we are going to be reading from the Gospel of John chapter 6, which begins this week with the great miracle story of the feeding of the 5,000. If you haven't been to Emmanuel in a while and don't remember the stained glass window that we have featuring this story, please come and gaze at it during the reading of the Gospel this coming week. So that's coming. The rest of chapter 6, which we will space out over the next 4 weeks following this week, is the theology and the practice of Holy Communion, what it means and why we do it the way we do it. And this is really important because all of that changed real fast. And now as we sort of come out of that, we need to figure out, are we going back to the same place, or are we going to add some practice? What are we doing about communion as we get to the end of this pandemic, assuming that the end is indeed still relatively near? 8 o'clock worship, we had planned to recommence in August. It looks like the 15th of August is going to be the initial date for 8 o'clock. Again, no reservations required. There will be mask use. Social distancing was never much of a problem at 8 o'clock, and I don't think it will be either. But you would be welcome to just come in. We're still working on the possibility, or what the bulletin situation is like. We've been printing full bulletins for 10 o'clock. Excuse me, where there are more options and more variations. But since the service for 8 o'clock is pretty much the same all the way through every time, and that most people are familiar with it and know it by heart, we may not print the same kind of bulletins for 8 o'clock that we are doing for the 10 o'clock service. So 8 o'clock, 8 a.m., starting on the 15th of August. If you are somebody who would like to help us at 8 o'clock, to be an usher, to be a chalicist, we would love to have you be in touch with me, which you can do by emailing me at the office or at MGATSA, or calling me on the church cell phone, which is like never farther than 2 reaches of my arm away. Now, the bishop has made it very clear that he doesn't like the little communion cups that many of us have been using. However, the bishop has not yet forbidden them from use. So until that happens, I will continue to make them available on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon. We also have some volunteers who could deliver them to you if you would like, if that's not a convenient way. But I really want to encourage you, if you haven't received communion in a while, especially for the next 5 weeks, that you go ahead and do that, because the experience you have of taking the wafer or the little pill of bread and sipping from the chalice may not be like communion as you know it and appreciate it, but it certainly is a step away from nothing. While I say that, please hang in there with us on Sunday mornings. I know it's very tempting to realize, oh, well, I can watch later. I can, I'll just tune in for the middle part for the sermon or whatever. Please hang in there with us, because keeping worship in your Sunday schedule is really important for us all coming back together. Do not neglect to come together and pray, St. Paul tells us. And so do that. Again, if you really can't be there on Sunday mornings live, either with us in person at the church or on a screen near you, you're of course always welcome to watch it whenever you can. But I'm encouraging you strongly to keep that Sunday morning time secure, so that when all the restrictions are lifted, you won't have gotten into the habit of not thinking about church on Sunday mornings. That would not be good. we still are broadcasting on the YouTube channel, and then my Compline services always on YouTube and Facebook, usually simultaneously. Okay, outside groups. We continue to negotiate with them. We have basically said that, again, starting slowly, a September restart is what's in our future. And, we're negotiating with them about what that will mean in terms of their practice. If we are still in the yellow phase, that will significantly deter their use of refreshments to prepackaged and pre-served items, which I know a lot of groups would find as a hardship. But if we are able to go to green phase by September, then we should be able to offer a little bit more flexibility to them. But it's at this point, the use of the space is not as much of a concern as the refreshment situation. Two more things. Number one, we had sort of a 2.5-year project trying to get organized around putting up that outdoor display sign, which is still relatively new in our experience. And it was just a mess from the very beginning. It was a mess because we had trouble getting the town of Bel Air to sign off on it, to tell us what the restrictions were. They strongly urged us to use, a local town company. We did. That experience was just dreadful. I'd be happy to share that with you. I don't want to do that so publicly, but privately, if you have any questions, let me know. We tried for over a full year before COVID to get things fixed, like the name of the church is misspelled at the top of the sign, like the fact that the panels that open up so that you can put letters in only open up about yay far at the bottom, which means somebody has to crawl under and do that. Or I just use my cane to slide letters back and forth, which is not easy either. There were several other sort of flaws in the way it was built. And then it was badly installed because there are only 3 out of 8 bolts holding it into the concrete pad. Long story short, we are moving to a new contractor. We have found one longtime Harford County company. Lots of people have had great experiences with them. I used them when I was up at Christ Church years and years ago. And they are going to take apart the sign, rebuild it from the frame out, redo the doors so that access will be easy for everybody to get in and out, with a key. So anybody who needs to change the message, me, the senior warden, people on the staff can get there and can do that. One of the things that's going to have to happen is that they're going to have to put in a new concrete pad, and redo the bolt system so that we can use all 8 bolts instead of just the 3 that are there now. And that means that at some point we're going to have to tear out the old pad. That's on us. We did not include that in the contracting. So if you know somebody who likes to demo concrete, let me know, because we have a fun project that should take them a little, an hour or so some nice afternoon. But big old chisel, big old hammer, and pound it all to pieces. That would be great. And then the last thing I have to say is thanks to one of our young parishioners, Colin, we have an Eagle Scout project scheduled for the church this summer. They're going to be trying to finish by mid-August. What they are going to do for us is to clear out, I love the way this sort of came out, the overgrown underbrush in the around the yew tree or the it's either a yew or a hemlock that's right near the gazebo. It's sort of grown up. There's a lot of vines and stuff in there that need to be taken out. The tree itself, once it's cleared out, will probably be okay. We may have to trim some branches, but that should be okay. We want to clean that up for 2 reasons. Number one, that really does block airflow into that part of the building, and we're seeing signs of mold and deterioration on the bottom panels of some of the walls in the back of the parish hall. Number two, it's also a security issue. That makes it more visible. We have had people kind of hanging out in that gazebo inappropriately, doing inappropriate things for a while because it's screened from the street view. So we want to make sure that safety feature is enhanced by making it more visible. Now, the other thing that we have agreed to do with them is to have them take down one section of the fence next to the labyrinth. Not everybody at Emmanuel knows that we have this lovely designed labyrinth right there behind the parish hall. Unfortunately, when they fenced it in, they made it difficult to work to use, because they fenced in an area so tight to the stonework that you can't really walk on it. And so we've cleared out the issue of the actual footstones themselves, so that we have a more level surface. Now we want to move the wall to make it more possible to use. And then the next step will be to do a long-term solution to the weeds and things that grow up out of the labyrinth. That will involve copious amounts of salt, which is the safe way for environmentally acceptable way to keep vegetation from growing for a long time. So we'll throw a couple 100 pounds of salt on there. It will essentially sterilize the soil for a while. Some of the salt will leach into the underground stream that's passing through, but we've been assured that that will not be an environmental issue because it will take a long time for that to happen. So that's it. But thanks to Colin and his troop mates who will be working on that in the next couple of weeks. If you have a young scout in your family who is looking for a big project like that, please remember that Emmanuel has lots of things like that that need to be done. This was one of 3 possibilities that I suggested to Colin, and this is the one that he chose. And so we're grateful for that, but there's plenty more work to be done. Friends, stay calm, stay connected, stay church. Stay calm right now means stay patient as all this stuff unfolds. Stay connected to each other. Call each other. Call me, please. Sometimes I don't know how I'm doing because I get very little feedback when I'm here, and I can't sort of stand in the back of the church and shake hands and all that. You know those reasons. Stay church. Stay part of Emmanuel. Pray every day. Be with us in worship on Sundays. Look out for your neighbors and love your neighbors, even the ones who don't come to Emmanuel, as yourself. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you. May God's countenance reign over you and give you peace. And may you be blessed by God, who is your creator, your redeemer, and the very breath of your life. Amen.